that they're going to rehear a case that I helped on in 1992 to forge a agreement in this Chisholm case, that they're now going to rehear the consent decree, whether or not this consent decree can continue to be valid, creating a judicial district for an African American to be on the Supreme Court of Louisiana. And it's fascinating that, that case, 1992, they're ready to rehear it now, decades later. It's just a reminder, isn't it, Dominique, that when it comes to these fights, we need generations to step forward. We need to be vigilant every time, right? That we can never say, well, victory is won and done. That is so critical for us to understand. What do you say to that?
Barbara, you and I have had many conversations, and you're hitting the right notes for me. I'll tell you, and I had a deep conversation. I had a conversation with someone about this very fact. If you look at where we came from with the civil rights movement and all the work that those giants did, many of them are no longer with us. So many of them have left, and the stories haven't been retained. We haven't continued to tell the story. And in some instances, it's because it's too hurtful to people, and I completely understand that. In others, it is because we are failing the future generations to make sure that they understand how difficult it was, to make sure that they understand how everything that they went through, because it's important to have that perspective when you're trying to move forward. We are 2 to 3 generations removed, depending on households, from the civil rights movement. And some of our children, thank God, have entered into a world in America where there is not blatant, in-your-face discrimination that is written into law. And they have taken that, many of them in this conservative movement, have taken that to say that these things are no longer needed. And because people don't remember, or because we haven't continued to have those conversations within our own families, then we have lost perspective of what could happen. And so I say to you in this vein, you could take Shelby County v. Holder. You could take the Dobbs decision. You could take this issue with the Voting Rights Act that's happening in Arkansas. You can take the one that you just mentioned on the Fifth Circuit with the Louisiana Supreme Court. Yes. There is this conversation that is happening around America that no longer do these discriminatory things happen in America, and therefore we don't need them. Or you have a presidential candidate saying that this is not a racist country. We as Black people understand exactly where we have come from. We know exactly what happened to us. And I'm telling you, on that sojourn to Africa and seeing everything that I saw in Ghana, it gives you even more clarity. So the fight is real, and the fight must be won. But in order for us to do that, we have to collectively stand together. And we can't allow anyone to placate our feelings. We can't allow them to tell us that these things no longer exist. We have to be the ones that we have been seeking. We have to be the ones to stand up in the gap and ensure that none of these things are progressing. That means that we're voting. That means that we're staying active into the political process. That means that there are lawyers out there that are challenging these things. And that means that we need more Black lawyers to pass the bar and to get on the bench. But imagine you now have an affirmative, and sorry to cut you off, but you now have an affirmative action issue where you're talking about how do more African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and people of color get access into higher education. And so they've changed the formatting, and quite frankly, all of these universities are trying to figure this out, and no one knows how to do it. But now you're saying that the racial component is not to be really considered. But when you talk about the longevity of an institution like the National Bar Association, and I'm not just saying me, I'm talking about all the professional entities around this country, the National Medical Association, the National Black Accountants, the National MBAs, we all regardless of what they have said, have benefited from the belief that everybody has an opportunity for an equal education and that people should be given that right to make sure that they can progress themselves. That's how you get professionals within this country. And now you have a decision from the Supreme Court that overturns that. What happens to us from a professional standpoint in the next 50 years, the next 70 years, if we can't ensure the pipeline continues for our Black professionals? So I just want to get that out because it's to the issue.
And I want to take this moment to have two of our young people, two of our young leaders to join, because I know before you have to leave that they want to say something to you. And I want to welcome to Igniting Change, Jaheim McRae. He is a Transformative Justice Coalition fellow, activist, creator, photographer, U.S. Army National Guard veteran, combat engineer, second-year business information system student. He's switching his major to journalism and mass communication. He's a student at the mighty North Carolina A&T University, and he is a gun violence survivor. He works for Growing Change and the NAACP, and he's done so much else. Welcome, Jaheim McRae. How are you, Jaheim?
I'm doing great, Lieutenant Arnwine. Thank you for having me today.
It was beautiful seeing you in South Carolina. And let me also welcome to the show Drake Smith. Oh, everybody, he's been on before. He's a Transformative Justice Coalition fellow, class of 2022, congressional intern for Representative Chrissy Houlihan. He's a junior at the Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. He's a voting rights advocate on and off campus, and he was elected in a landslide victory as the president of the Lincoln University SGA, the first freshman ever to achieve such a feat. So he is serving on the university's board of trustees. But more importantly, hey, everybody, didn't you hear about that march, that 60-mile march from Lincoln University down to Harrisburg, where the students were saying, give us equal funding? That was the work of one amazing Drake Smith. Hey, welcome to Igniting Change, Drake.
Attorney Arnwine, I'm fantastic. I could not be better. Always good to be on the show.
All right, Daryl.
Drake, Barbara was mentioning some of the march that you did from Lincoln on down. Can you share with our folks, how your training prepared you for that type of encounter and what it's going to propel you to in the future?
So that training really showed us that you can get off campus and kind of how to build a coalition, because it's the Transformative Justice Coalition. Every time we have a Millennial Gen Z voter training, you tend to bring people from all over, national journalists, national civil rights leaders, and not just civil rights leaders, but, disability rights activists, voter rights activists, women's rights activists. And we saw that coalition, and it was me and three other fellows that all attend Lincoln, Jason Davis, Isaiah Johnson, and Mackenzie Hanks. And we just took that training and we, put out a few press releases. We probably had one going out every 2-3 days. We made calls for donations. We made, heavy social media presence. And we put it where the goats can get it, right? We made sure that we broke it down to students and say, look, this is how us not having this $18 million is affecting you. This is how it's going to affect your professors. And this is what we can do about it. And I think the biggest thing we took away from the training and the Transformative Justice Coalition is bold action. There's a quote out there that says, make no small plans, but they've never stirred the soul. And we stirred some souls when we made that 66-mile march.
That was awesome. And Daryl, because Dominique is going to possibly have to leave, I want to make sure that we allow Drake and Jaheim to to reflect on what they've heard from Dominique and the post questions. And Dominique, we definitely want to talk about the model resolution. If you could just hold in there with us for a few more minutes, we'll get to that question also. But go ahead, Daryl.
So, Jaheim, not certain if you had a question for President Calhoun or not with regards to how the National Bar Association can work. And I know you now are familiar with this resolution that has been introduced by the Transformative Justice Coalition, the resolution to go across this nation to all the local municipal governments, asking them to stand up and recognize the vitality of the Voting Rights Act and the importance that it not be destroyed any more than it has with what's happening now in Arkansas in the Eighth Circuit case. So, Jaheim, I know that you're interested in that resolution, and I know that you may have a question for President Calhoun, so I want to give you that opportunity.
Yes. First off, I just want to say I do appreciate you, President Calhoun, for the message that you did spread. And although I'm not in school for anything dealing with, law or pre-law or anything along those lines. But I do just want to ask, I'm real big on providing opportunities to other people, specifically at my HBCU, because if it wasn't for people like Attorney Arnwine giving me the opportunity to be on this show or even being a part of TJC, I wouldn't be where I am today. So with that being said, what are some ways that I can get people specifically at North Carolina A&T to get more opportunities with you, the Bar Association, of just, being involved in law in general, and how can I mobilize and activate them to be more involved in this space?
Well, I thank you for that question. And first and foremost, let me tell you this. It is very easy to get a hold of me. My email address is president@nationalbar.org. Very simple, president@nationalbar.org. And I welcome any young person who wants to be engaged in this fight to work in it. Now, I will tell you, although the National Bar Association has well over 100 chapters, or we call them affiliates, and not only here in the country but also internationally, we don't have a unified one in North Carolina. So what I'm here to tell you, though, is in those works, in our efforts, where we send out our press releases similar to what the Transformative Justice Coalition does, whether it's NAACP, and therefore we are always working to ensure that we are improving outcomes for people. And most importantly, and Barbara Arnwine knows about this, we have our election protection engagement.
Oh, yeah.
So that is where the big fight exists. And so you don't need to be a lawyer to engage in that work. That means that we're making sure that the polling locations are available for people, and make sure that we are getting out the vote, not in a partisan way, but just in informing people of the rules and responsibilities within their jurisdictions in all of those efforts. And so for young people that are really engaged into this work, the election protection activities are really important. And the more that we can get you engaged into that fight, the better off we will all be across this country. And so to answer your question directly, that would be my goal, is to make sure that you come and bring as many people as you can. Although we don't have, like I said, a chapter in North Carolina, what we do have are lawyers within that jurisdiction that do assist us, as North Carolina has been and will continue to be one of those battleground states. And so any ways that we can make sure people are prepared for the upcoming election season is always important for us.
Okay, I definitely appreciate the answer, and who knows, maybe I could be one of those young student leaders to help get one of those chapters in North Carolina.
All right, now. You never know. I mean, that is so inspiring. And Drake, the same question.
Yeah, I guess my question is simply to President Calhoun. When can we have you come to Lincoln? We have a lot of students interested in law, I heard you uplift the name of Thurgood Marshall earlier. As you know, he went to Lincoln University, but we've had a number of civil rights leaders come through Lincoln. Franklin Hall Williams, another noted NAACP lawyer, Clarence M. Mitchell, longtime NAACP advocate in Washington, D.C., and, of course, Kwame Nkrumah and Nnamdi Azikiwe, first presidents of a free Nigeria and Ghana. So we're just, we have students that are ready to change the world, and they're here and they're getting those book smarts, because our motto at Lincoln is learn, liberate, and lead. And we think that President Calhoun, you could definitely help us do that, because we actually have